Oh, hello, hello, and welcome back to the Shakey Sonnet Show. I am Tootight Lautrec, the drag laureate of the Sonnetarium, and here we are once again in the Sonnetarium at the bottom of the down staircase in the permanently sequestered remainders section of an unnamed local library, which may or may not have two craggy old weather-beaten lions on the front steps overlooking our little project here. And as I said, I am the drag laureate of the Sonnetarium, and if I look like I've been dragged through almost 6,000 years of parsing prose and poetry, well, I have. But as fagged as I may be, I persist. Autumn has arrived here in New York City, and the leaves are changing. There's a slight chill in the air, and it's a reminder that, as Ecclesiastes says, to everything there is a season, or as they say in Latin, omnia tempus habent. Leaves must wither and fall, as must skin and faces, apparently. Well, Shakespeare, of course, not only knew this very well, but he was really rather obsessed with it. And in Sonnets 62 and 63, which we'll be looking at today, they highlight this obsession, his obsession with wrinkles and age and time and the loss of youth and beauty and, oh yes, and death, all those lovely things. And since time is relentlessly tick-tocking away, let's get right into it, shall we? I'm going to read 62 and talk a little bit about that, and then we'll go to 63 from there. Sonnet 62. Sin of self-love possesseth all mine eye, and all my soul, and all my every part. And for this sin there is no remedy, it is so grounded inward in my heart. Methinks no face so gracious as is mine, no shape so true, no truth of such account, and for myself mine own worth do define, as I all other in all worths surmount. But when my glass shows me myself indeed, beaded and chopped with tanned antiquity, mine own self-love quite contrary I read. Self so self-loving were iniquity. 'Tis thee, myself, that for myself I praise, painting my age with beauty of thy days. Well, so here we have the age-old problem of saggy skin. And first off, I would like to mention that since a new school year has started, Sonnet 62 is rather a perfect format of for a high school essay, for instance. Quatrain 1 is the thesis, Quatrain 2 is the example, Quatrain 3 is the application of the example, and the couplet is the conclusion. So it's just an observation, but it's really quite a nice example of the format for any kind of student essay. So the first quatrain, sin of self-love. Now here we're not just talking about the masturbatory trafficking with thyself alone that we saw in Sonnet 4 and with some of the other earlier sonnets. Or is it? I mean, sin of self-love possesseth all mine eye, but also all my soul, and all my every part. So, I mean, every part is involved, so there is a little bit of extra self-loving going on. But the narrator does seem to recognize that this solipsistic obsession is a sin, and so there's a self-consciousness and a self-awareness which hints at an intelligence that somewhat undercuts the complete self-absorption of the first quatrain. Sin of self-love possesseth all mine eye, and all my soul, and all my every part, and for this sin there is no remedy. There is no help for me. I love myself. It is so grounded inward in my heart. It's deep, deep, deep in every part of me, and deep in my heart and in my bones. Second quatrain is the example. Methinks no face so gracious as is mine, no shape so true, no truth of such account, the true beauty of my own face, and for myself mine own worth do define. I'll say it right here. I love myself. I'm gorgeous. I'm beautiful. And as I, all other in all worths surmount. So I mean, I'm sitting here, and as far as I'm concerned, I feel just as beautiful as Ronnie Spector or Audrey Hepburn or Liz Taylor or Bella Hadid or even, dare I say it, Beyonce. And then the third quatrain. But my mirror, but my glass, tells me quite another story. But when my glass shows me myself indeed, when I look in my mirror and I see the actual me, beaded and chopped with tanned antiquity, and that line 11 with that beautifully emphatic percussive of the B's and the T's and the D's and the CH, the P's, the D's, beated and chopped with tanned antiquity, just beating the youth right out of that face, beated and chopped with tanned antiquity, and tanned being not the fashion in Elizabethan times. It simply meant burnt by the sun and wrinkled and old looking. Mine own self-love, quite contrary, I read. And contrary, I don't just read it contrary to what I think, the opposite of what I thought, but it's also like the opposite image of what the world sees, I see in my glass. And so my mirror can maybe fool me where the rest of the world sees what I truly look like. And it might be what one might look like if one were to take a selfie with that reverse lens, which maybe I'll do later and post it on my Instagram. We'll see. But my mirror tells me everything that I once thought about how gorgeous I am. Tells me the truth, and I'm not quite as gorgeous as I thought I was, or as I used to be. And then we get to the couplet. 'Tis thee, myself that for myself I praise. It's you. I praise you because I praise myself because you're in my life. You are what makes me feel young. 'Tis thee, myself, that for myself I praise, painting my age with beauty of thy days. I see you all young and tight and moist and beautiful over there. And I just imagine, well, who could possibly be with this dry, wrinkled, old, craggy drag queen when, in fact, I have you to keep me alert and upright, as the case may be. My love for you has tricked me into believing that youth is forever, and that since I feel like our love is forever, that I am also young. Well, pity the fool me. But in this sonnet, there are quite a lot of themes going through, themes of opposites that we can contemplate: the substance versus shadow, what I really think and what I really am, truth versus falsehood, superficial qualities versus inner qualities, what I think of my face or what I think of your beauty versus the true inner beauty that is there, and also self-loving versus self-loathing, loving versus loathing. And then, if we follow that directly up with Sonnet 63, which we are going to do because they are in order, and I am persisting in this idea that they should be read in order, when we follow it up with Sonnet 63, it serves as sort of a counterweight to Sonnet 62, as announced in the first three words of Sonnet 63, against my love. Now, we're going to be talking about the word against and the different forms that it takes, but as we go along, when Sonnet 63 is read back to back with Sonnet 62, there is an unmistakable sense that the narrator transfers the conceit of this inconstant stay, the idea that we will continue to grow old, and the workings of time's scythe from the narrator onto the beloved, from the lover onto the beloved. So let's take a look. But also note that in Sonnet 62, we have a contemplation of oneself, and it's almost a complete contemplation of oneself until we get to the couplet, and then we get a direct address to the beloved at the end. But in Sonnet 63, it's completely indirect. There is no direct address to the beloved. It's simply a contemplation about the beloved, and it does seem that this reinforces the idea that they are separate. So, Sonnet 63. Against my love shall be as I am now, with time's injurious hand crushed and o'erworn, when hours have drained his blood and filled his brow with lines and wrinkles, when his youthful morn hath travelled on to age's steepy night, and all those beauties whereof now he's king are vanishing or vanished out of sight, stealing away the treasure of his spring. For such a time do I now fortify against confounding age's cruel knife, that he shall never cut from memory my sweet love's beauty, though my lover's life. His beauty shall in these black lines be seen, and they shall live, and he in them still green. So here, although I do believe that the against, when held right up against Sonnet 62, is announcing a reversal, here against means in preparation for. And in preparation for the time when my love shall be as I am now, old and craggy and withered, with time's injurious hand crushed and o'erworn, when time comes and works his tremendously powerful workings on my beauty's face, and on crushed and overworn, when hours have drained his blood. Okay, excuse me, whose blood? His blood. We have a gender. When hours have drained his blood and filled his brow with lines and wrinkles, when his youthful morn hath travelled on to age's steepy night. Well, here we have line 4, with lines and wrinkles. Well, lines are lines and wrinkles are wrinkles, and in fact they are the exact same thing. And as our editor, John Kerrigan, in the Penguin book of Shakespeare's sonnets points out, we have a new cocktail party drinking word here, and the word is pleonasm. And a pleonasm is the use of more words than are necessary to convey meaning. So there is a pleonasm in line 4, with lines and wrinkles. Well, lines could do the trick, wrinkles could do the trick, but Shakespeare chooses to use both. And Kerrigan says, offhandedly, as if everybody in the world knows what pleonasm is, Kerrigan says, the pleonasm is functional because it draws attention to a word used in the couplet to carry the burden of the poem's argument. So we'll see that when we get to the couplet, but for the nonce, line 4 has a pleonasm, and you can trot that out at your next cocktail party, as if you too knew it all along. So the pleonasm bleeds right into the next line. When hours have drained his blood and filled his brow with lines and wrinkles, when his youthful morn hath travelled on to steepy night, and that's a really wonderful word, steepy. Steepy as in rapidly declining, as the sun follows its steep decline into the night, and also as if it's steeped as if like a tea bag, and it gets darker and darker and darker. Although I have to say that sometimes I find teabagging is quite good for the complexion. But in this instance, steepy meaning dark and a swift decline into youth, hath travelled on to age's steepy night, and all those beauties whereof now he's king are vanishing or vanished out of sight. And that's quite nice too. Vanishing or vanished. It's this progressive movement. We get vanishing and then vanished. So it's really quite a steep decline. When that happens, stealing away the treasure of his spring, for such a time do I now fortify against. And here the against is not in preparation for the time, it's a fight. It's a fight against that time when it will come. I'm steeling myself for the time when it actually happens. For such a time do I now fortify against confounding age's cruel knife, like time's scythe in Sonnet 12, against age's cruel knife, that he shall never cut from memory my sweet love's beauty, though my lover's life. So age will never cut lines into my beloved's beauty, and it'll never cut the memory out of my head. Even if it kills him, the beauty will still be there in my memory. So a bit superficial, saving beauty instead of the life, but one takes what one can get in Shakespeare. His beauty, the couplet now, his beauty shall in these black lines be seen. And here we have the echo of the pleonasm. That's right, pleonasm. We have the echo of the pleonasm from line 4 put to work in line 13. His beauty shall in these black lines, not lines that are on his face, but the lines black ink on paper, and by extension this poem. His beauty shall in these black lines be seen, and they shall live, and he in them still green. Well, he'll live forever, his beauty will live forever in my poem, and there we have it. We have another contemplation that's an intense and beautiful contemplation on time and age and beauty and poetry's lasting value. But also in 62, truth and falsehood and self-deception and the ways that love can transform us. Even as time withers us, love can transform us into a lasting beauty. So if, as the scholars propose, Sonnet 62 and Sonnet 63 were written before Sonnets 1 through 60, it is clear to me that they have been extensively revised later to appear as they appear now. Because these are so rich and multi-layered and intricately argued sonnets, and they deftly explore the and beautifully convey the idea of time and its workings, that I can only surmise that they were revised much later, even if they were originally composed earlier. And this is my announcement to writers everywhere. Revision. Revision can help you chip away at the mundane to uncover the miraculous. And I do believe that's what Shakespeare has done here. So, is there a gender? Yes, there is clearly a gender, and not only is there clearly a gender, it's in almost every line. It's in line 3, line 4, line 6, line 8, line 13, and line 14. There is a he in line 10, but that refers to age, the personification of age. But this is definitely, the beloved is a male. Now, 62 doesn't specify male or female either for the narrator or for the beloved. So, and in 63, the narrator doesn't specify the gender either. It could be either male or female, but clearly the beloved in 63 is a male. Now, dramatically, how would it fit into Shakespeare's works? Well, Edmondson and Wells suggest that Sonnet 62 could be spoken by Malvolio in Twelfth Night. But any hero or heroine, or even any fool or bit player past the age of 30 or 40 or 50 or any other age that you might want to imagine, anyone could speak these lines if they were thinking themselves somehow over the hill. Narratively, taken in order, 61 announced a separation, while 62 addresses the beloved directly, although this could be also an address in a letter or even thinking out loud, as far as I'm concerned. Sonnet 63 does not directly address a lover, and so it does feel like it's written in absence. These lovers seem to have been separated, and we want to continue them on their way while Shakespeare works it through with these beautiful but beautiful contemplations on beauty and lost time. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, I hope you'll lose no time in continuing to follow us as we work through our examination of all 154 of Shakespeare's sonnets as they appear in the 1609 quarto. And for all of you playing along to the cocktail party vocabulary drinking game, taking a little sip every time I utter pleonasm, to you I say pleonasm, pleonasm, pleonasm. In which case, the world will really, truly be filled with wonder. Maybe a bit of a wobbly wonder, but wonder all the same. Whatever you do, pay attention. Until we meet again, I am Tootight Lautrec. Mwah.